Well, I'm 47 years old. I'm married to Mary. I have 4 children. I am a career schoolmaster, really. This is my second headship, and I've always worked in education. I love working in education, and I think that will always be my pathway. I've been lucky. I mean, I feel I'm a very privileged person, that I've experienced a fantastic education. I went to a small prep school, had an inspirational headmaster who taught me classics, so set me on the road to being a classics teacher. But I think he had a very strong sense of values and the right way to behave, and what the culture of a school should be and feel like. And I always enjoyed that. And I've been lucky latterly to go to good schools and to see the full enjoyment that you can get. And as a teacher, I always enjoyed the fact that I could have a morning in the classroom, but then an afternoon coaching and an evening in a boarding house tutoring. And in truth, not all of those things will go perfectly well, but there will have been joy, maybe throughout the day, but certainly at one point in the day. And at the end of it, you know you've done some good. You've had hundreds of conversations, you've interacted with loads of pupils, and it's fun and it's energizing. And in some ways, I miss those days of being on the ground and connecting with boys and girls, and doing the small nudges that make a difference, I think, in boys and girls' lives. Good days are when you have a real variety. There's got to be some pupil involvement in that day in order to make it really rewarding. And I think one becomes a head because you hope that you can make it better on a wider scale for both adults and pupils, so pupils and parents, but also your staff. It's great when you can give an opportunity to a member of staff, when you appoint a member of staff, when you have a promotion, or you do something that you feel has enabled someone else to make an impact and to unlock a part of school life. I think always in education, one of our challenges is that the grown-up generation don't just see education through their own experience. So they've got to try and let go of their own experience and feel that something different is okay, because we do cling to what we're used to, a pathway that worked for us. It might work for our children, but it might not. And I think on the old debate between skills and knowledge, I think we're moving into a skills zone again, where those skills really matter. Knowledge will always be important, and I never like to side one way or the other, but I think we've tipped a little bit towards skills. I think we need an interconnected education. I think COVID has taught us that you can't work in a silo. Everything is interconnected, and the more we can show pupils that within school, they won't be the finished product when they leave us, but the more that we can show them to make those connections in what they're doing in the classroom and outside of the classroom, I think that's important. But nothing will beat the importance of human relationships, of soft skills, of showing care, of knowing how to work with other people, of knowing how to look after yourself. Those unwritten parts, immeasurable parts of education remain as precious as ever, and I think schools like Oakham, and Oakham in particular, do it incredibly well. I think I'd start with the basic, really. What matters is a strong sense of care and belonging, and a sense of values that anchors pupils and gives them something to return to when things are difficult and they're buffeted. On an academic side, I think that pupils have learnt to be more agile, more creative. They need to make connections with their learning, to understand the value of what they're learning, and to see across subjects, but to connect together what they're learning outside the classroom with what they're learning inside the classroom. And part of the joy of education is the penny doesn't always drop. Sometimes it drops within school. Oh yeah, I get it now. Sometimes it doesn't drop until a few years later. But as long as we've sown those seeds, then they do drop and they do have benefit. They do have academic and intellectual benefit, but they do have a kind of social benefit and a pastoral benefit. Okay, yeah, I've been in a scenario like this before. I know how to look out for people. I know how to be part of a team and not to take centre stage. But equally, I've learned how to be the person that does need to be centre stage here. I need to be a leader. I need to make a statement and actually bring others with me. And we want to try and instill all of those skills in boys and girls. They won't be fully fledged, but building that sense of muscle memory, so when they meet these scenarios in the future, they go, yeah, I've seen something like this before, and I'm going to grasp it. I'm going to do it. No, definitely not. But I'm never going to say as a head that academic results don't matter. They're a useful gateway to the next stage, and sometimes academic results are there, that they are there to unlock the next step. I also think that we want pupils to work hard, actually. Perseverance and getting stuck in and working towards something, I think, is a perfectly worthy goal. And therefore, for me to say that results don't matter would be absurd. But they're not the be-all and end-all. They're not going to define boys and girls in the end. Much more important values and human qualities and relationships will define who they are. They're not going to be, you know, well, I'm Mr. or Mrs. 9 A stars. I'm that kind, adventurous, creative person who made great friends. That's what really defines us. But I do want boys and girls to work, and I think exam and results can create aspiration, create landmarks, create things to work towards. I think the revision process is often when learning really comes together and pupils begin to go, oh, I get it now. So they can serve a purpose, but it's not results in itself, it's learning, and exams are part of that learning process. They're not the aim of the learning process. You know me well enough to know I think they matter hugely. I think the difficulty is defining them, because often we have a sense of values, we feel them, but when you write them down on a piece of paper, they suddenly feel a bit crude, and you could write down all sorts of things. But the reason I think they matter is because families, companies, villages, towns, countries, we have these values, and they're important because they give us something to guide us, particularly in difficult moments. What's the right thing to do here? And the right thing to do, you have to reach back inside and think, okay, well, what are the barometers I'm going to use? What are the values I'm going to use to guide me? Now, there may be an intellectual element to it, there may be a policy, there may be rules, there may be data, there may be all sorts of things. But in the end, we have to have something that anchors us and gives us a sense of confidence, and I think allows us to go, well, I did this. Of course, there were other ways, there could have been other decisions, but I did this based on what I thought was right, and therefore I feel comfortable with it. And I think values bring people together. They give us something to circle around, to give a common language, which is helpful, actually, and binds people together, even though everyone is different, even though there may be differences of opinions. Well, we're working on that, and it's a subtle challenge, I think, because they need to kind of come from within, and I've talked to all sorts of people about what values Oakham could have or should have. For me, care sits at the heart of it. Care for issues, care in what we do, so a sense of pride, and ultimately knowing how to look after oneself but care for others, that sense of kindness that has to be part of a community, and I think particularly part of a community of children who are learning how to become adults, and so care is very important. We talk about courage, And courage can be used in all sorts of contexts. The courage to tell the truth, the courage to get involved and try something new. For me, often for pupils, courage is just doing something different to what their peers do, because the peer group's so important at this age. But the courage, I think, just to stand up and have an opinion, to put your hand up in lesson, to read in chapel. But above all, the courage to be yourself, whatever that might be. The courage to speak up when something's not right. And I could go on, but we need courage, and I want our boys and girls to have courage here, but when they move on, because to get things done at some point, they're going to need to do something brave. They're going to have to make a decision that might alienate some but bring others with them, and that's difficult, but they need to have the courage to do so. And it's really important, I think, for any business, for any society, that there are people that are prepared to show courage in a good way. Contribution, a value, but really a mindset. Boys and girls that get involved, and schools are all about getting involved. Oakham is packed full of opportunity, and it makes me sad if I see that opportunity wasted. So contribution, get involved, but contribution, I think, is important in all sorts of ways. Take part in lessons, take part in teams and music and sport and drama, but take part in the house. But actually we want contributors, because I think if boys and girls learn to be contributors now, they will be people that make a contribution in the future. And that matters. That matters again in their family, in their society. This is a hugely, hugely privileged environment. And we need to be aware of that and take that responsibility. But I would say to the pupils here, you're privileged, please don't be ashamed of that. Be aware of it, but you do have a responsibility to use your education well and to make a contribution in the future. It might not be till you're 30 or 40 or 50 or 60, but give back in all sorts of ways. We are a big school, and that gives opportunity for me. That allows us to do lots of things. It allows us to have A-levels and IB. It allows us to have a great sport, music and drama programme, but also numerous activities, thriving DOV, CCF, everything that goes on around it. It allows us to have specialist careers department, really well-trained tutors, a fantastic medical centre. It gives breadth of opportunity to a huge number of boys and girls, and that in itself, Oakham is co-educational, and not newly co-educational, almost 50 years of co-education. What made me apply? Boarding, infrastructure, even if you're a day pupil, you get all the benefits of that. Co-education, great sort of sense of tradition and innovation. I think those are things that you want in a school, but underpinning it all is we look after boys and girls. And I've always said, and I will say it every time I stand up in front of staff and parents, if we look after these boys and girls, if we know them, it will be fine. The learning will come, the things outside the classroom will come, but that has to be our pillar, that has to be our platform, and I felt that was strong, and nothing has persuaded me otherwise. Can't be complacent about it, you have to keep working at it, you have to talk about it, think about it, have the right programs in place, but fundamentally have good people in place that see looking after boys and girls, helping them on their journey, helping them grow up as teenagers, that's a joyful thing, and that's what we're here to do. I hope not. I feel quite conflicted by that question, because on the one hand the answer is absolutely not, of course not. We've got over 1,000 pupils, they're all individuals, and some of them are, you could almost say, find me a pupil and I'll go and find someone who's very keen in their sport, someone who's very musical, someone who's a bit shyer, someone who's a bit naughty and gets into trouble. A blend of those things. Someone who's absolutely academically driven towards sciences, someone who's an all-rounder. I think I could probably find you all of those pupils and 100 more different categories, but equally they're forming, they're growing, they're changing. So I would hate to feel the typical Oakhamian. But on the other hand, I would like to feel that they do feel a slight sense of identity. And I know that a huge number of old Oakhamians do feel a sense of identity and pride and a sense of connection with the school. And perhaps it comes back to a core set of values. There are things that I would like Oakhamians to circle around and feel strongly about, even if they all go off in different directions, and they will all go off in different directions, and they're already going in different directions in their day. And you can see as they peel off towards the music schools, or peel off towards the gym, or head off towards the science schools, you know, they're already making their individual choices. To be talked of as the best co-educational independent school in the country, to make sure we keep that balance of tradition in the best possible way, that there is a real heritage here, but we keep looking of ways to innovate in and out of the classroom. It would absolutely be based on a school where we see pastoral care and looking after boys and girls and helping them know how to look after themselves here and when they leave us at the heart of everything we do. We will keep a boarding infrastructure here at Oakham, but it's that sense of remaining a school that is great and ambitious, but still turns out boys and girls that are confident, aspirational, that are courageous, but have their feet on the ground and know that they must use this education wisely and wear it lightly, but take it with them, use it, give back, and in whatever they do. And I hope they will always stay connected with Oakham as well. What excites me is it's always the cycle of a school year, that sense of transition, of having helped and guided boys and girls through, and particularly as we approach the end of the summer term, it's a bittersweet time, but I like that sense of transition of, well done, off you go, we wish you well, keep in touch. But at the same time, you're welcoming in new families, new staff, and getting ready again to play your part in the lives of these families, but these boys and girls over 8 years, 7 years, 5 years, 2 years. That is exciting, being a part of that and being that pillar in their lives, pupil, parent, but school. We are here not just to educate in the classroom, but to play a precious part in these beautiful, joyful, sometimes complicated years of growing up through school and particularly through teenage life. That's exciting. That's the bit I love. I slightly miss that I'm not a housemaster anymore and right on the front line, but that's joyful, that's exciting. Who's coming next? How are we going to get you through? How are we going to add value? How are we going to make this a really joyful time while you're with us? And how are we going to set you on as best possible path we can for the future? That's good.